your customer well, and everybody knows somebody. You know, everybody knows somebody that is a little bit shysterous in business, whatever kind of business they're in. And so I want to be that I want to be that company. I want to be that person that has repeat business, that people, no matter where they went to a different company, would always come back and buy from us again because we did well for them, we gave them a good value, and we treated them respectfully. And so for me, that's the goal of being in business.
So shifting just a little bit, since this event this evening is in part sponsored by our friends at NABO. As a woman, obviously you face some significant challenges in your business life. How did you create a balance in your personal life? You're obviously a wife and obviously a mother to 2 kids, and yet running a very successful global company. Was that always a difficult balancing act?
Obviously that was a problem. You know, you kept on thinking, oh, I'm going to not have children until I'm 30. Because by then the business will be going. Oh, I'm 30 and the business isn't really going yet. Maybe I can put it off till 35. So you kind of delay having children. You look at whether maybe I shouldn't have children. We just, you don't have to have children to be a success in life. But then if you want children, how do you balance that? So it was always kind of tearing. We made a pact early on that when we decided to have children, that one of us would always be at home every evening with the children. And we, up until that point, we're both traveling a lot, and we traveled a lot together. So we said, okay, if we're going to have children, one of us has to be home every night. And so that worked out quite well. So oftentimes, only one of us was home, probably at least half the time, but one of us was always home with the kids. And I think that was a good balance, and they seem to have grown all right. You know, I think with the kids, it's always setting expectations and living up to those expectations. If you tell your children that one of us is going to be home every night and then you're never home, they're probably going to be a little upset or a little unsettled by that. So I think that worked out well, and by the time we did have children, both of our parents lived in town, so they helped a lot. And we were able to, to afford to get help as well.
Thank you, Pam. Yes, please.
I was curious to know if you had any advice for someone like me. That my dad has a business, and I'll be taking it over in like 10 years. It's a chimney cleaning business. What advice you would have for someone like me that I want to expand it? Right now it's just him. He just does the cleanings himself, but I want to make it a bigger business. I want to expand. I want to
hire people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great. He's done all the business himself, so he knows what to do and how to do it well. And I think, for you, it'll be training and hiring business and hiring people and determining what part of the business you want to do. Do you want to do the sales? Do you want to do, how you're going to drive business? And then maybe hire the people to do the training, or to do the actual cleaning. But I would make sure that I always went out and checked on them. I recently, well, it's been about 2 years ago, I had a gardener, and they were doing, it was like going downhill. It was getting worse and worse and worse. And so I called the owner of the gardening company, and I said, could you meet me over at the house? I want to walk you through the garden and have a talk with you. And so he said he would. So I left work at 3 o'clock and went over to meet him, and he didn't show up. He sent the same guy that does the gardening. Well, that was the problem. I'd asked to meet him, so I called him back up, and so I just said, okay, forget it. And I just fired him, and I wrote him a note, thank you for your services, and I hired somebody else. And he called me and he said, well, we were your gardeners for 8 years, why did you fire me? And I go, well, I wanted to tell you that you weren't doing a very good job, but you didn't show up, and so I figured you didn't want my business. I showed up at 3 o'clock, left work, and you sent the gardener. And I'd already talked to him 5 or 6 times about what he wasn't doing right, and I'd called you. So you have to stay close to the customer. Sometimes people think that they're in business. In fact, I was talking to somebody locally here that builds apartments, and he goes, well, of course, I'm not going to go out and talk to people renting my apartments. I go, no, you should. You should go out and talk to people renting your apartments and ask them what they like and what they don't like about your apartments, and then you should make changes in the future. And he goes, oh, well, I have people that do that.
So is that a part of your hands-on approach to management as well? Do you interact frequently with your clients? And
I always go out and visit customers, and I have our development people that oftentimes developers don't go out and visit clients, but we force that as well, and it works out well. I mean, how can you develop software for somebody to use when you never even talk to that person or that set of people? And it's hard because when we have, I think we have about 300,000 users of our software. So defining what the user is very difficult, but you have to go out and talk to enough people that you can get a sense for the bigger requirement, not just one person's requirement, but it's still, you want to please every person.
do you think it's still possible for a young person today to start a business not like yours, but to start a business and have a reasonable expectation of growing it into the size and scope of business that QAD is today?
Well, I think when you start a business, you have to get a feeling for how big that business can be and how you're going to make it big. So chimney sweeping, for instance, you can have a chimney sweeping business that's local to Santa Barbara and Goleta, or you can decide to do a franchise. You could set up a whole methodology for franchising it, and teaching people how to get business, how to do the work, what kind of tools they need, how to advertise, put together a whole package, and then franchise it out and charge a percentage. And so it really depends on your business plan, and you do have to have a business plan. You have to at least sit down on a yearly basis and say, where am I and where can I go? Where can I go this next year, and where can I go 5 years from now, and what's my biggest vision? Where's my overall vision? And originally, our thought was to provide software to manufacturing companies basically in the Tri-Counties. And then as we developed our software, we saw that it was more and more companies were going global and going international, and we said, wow, we either need to develop our software so that it handles multi-currency and different languages and all these other tax rules on a global basis, or we're going to lose customers locally because they're now global companies. So do we want to stay a local company, and then what would that look like? Who would be our customer? Or do we want to be a global company, and then what would that look like, and who would be our customer? So and then what the potential is. What's the potential for a local company? What's the potential for a global? Who's our competitors? How would we position against the competitors? What uniquenesses could we offer? You really have to think through all that, because otherwise you're kind of, in a rowboat without an oar.
Thank you. Well, it looks like Melissa has a question.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
As a business owner, last year was pretty tough in terms of the economy. This year is maybe going to be just as tough, if not tougher. I know we're hearing that the economy is on the recovery, but I'm just wondering what kind of tough decisions have you had to make, and what you would advise other business owners in this economy?
Well, certainly, it was a bad year. Our business decreased 18%, probably the first time ever in history that we really had a decrease like that in business. And so we took a few tactics. We'd asked people to take 1 out of 10 days off, so to take basically a 10% pay cut or 10% furlough, as the government calls it here. And so work a day less, get paid a day less, and that helped a lot. We did then do some, we did exit some people, primarily in areas that, we didn't feel like we needed that many people, or people that weren't doing the job that we needed them to do. But we were able at the end of the year to actually make a profit, and we did bonuses based on profitability, and everybody got 80% of their bonuses. So that was actually a very, very successful year and a very difficult time. So overall, we were okay, you know, with the year.